This gold crown I did for this patient 28 years ago, and she's been a patient ever since. And she's ground through the tooth because of the porcelain that's up on top. And that porcelain crown's about 15 years. The patient wears a night guard all the time, and so it's mostly through chewing or possibly clenching or grinding during the day, which about 20% of the population does. This is the gold crown, checking the margins. And really, the fit of the gold crown is very nice. The tooth itself, though, you can see there's a hole through the top. And I take an Explorer and check that. That white area that you see is the Keytac cement. And the silver, or gray silverish area, is the silver filling. So we've taken the crown off, and there's the Keytac cement, and it has a fluoride base in it, which has really been very helpful in terms of protecting tooth structure. And we'll take out that whole white area on the inside is also cement. And I'm checking to see if there's decay where the hole was, and I wasn't quite convinced, and so I take a round burr and remove just a little bit of it, and that's hard tooth structure. The just because the tooth structure is discolored doesn't mean that it's not infected. It can still be a great foundation for a crown. On the other hand, on this side, it turns out to be soft, and I end up removing a fair amount of the decay. And you can use things like decay detector, but the standard is using a spoon excavator, which I'm using here in just a minute. And we'll see if there's any soft tissue there that comes out. And yes, it does. So I spent a fair amount of time removing that area. There's really not any other spot where the margin looks like there was any leakage. And if you noticed, I had checked that area beforehand and it looked really good. And it's something that you can't really see on an x-ray. And you can see how I'm removing tooth structure, and the tooth structure actually gives underneath the drill. I'm using an electric handpiece with about 2,000 RPMs, and it's still continues to be soft. And you'll see me check in a couple of seconds. And oftentimes when you have a crown that doesn't have the fluoride and the cement, this would be a lot worse. And it's really been nice that we've been able to go in, remove the crown, and prepare it for a new one, and hopefully it'll get another 25 years. I have a piece of cord that's around the gum tissue so that I don't cause any bleeding when I'm working there. You can see the tooth structure being peeled away. And so we're getting that all nice and hard. And then I'll put in a fluoride liner. In this case, we'll end up using Vitrabond, which is a modified glass ionomer, modified resin. And so we're cleaning that up. Doesn't do any good to leave any soft decay behind. So there it is, completely cleaned up. We're getting ready to put the base liner in. And it's light cured, and that's why the color is a little bit different here. If there was normal light, the material would turn hard and wouldn't let me place it. I do 2 placements because it was relatively large. Sometimes if it's truly larger than this, we would do what would be called a crown buildup. But I chose to try and be conservative, hold on to as much tooth structure as possible. And I also like the fluoride component of this. And this is me polishing it at a very low speed. This is probably around 3 or 4,000, maybe 5. And it's just like polishing. I'm just getting the edge of the margins smooth and being very careful not to heat up the tooth. Here I am doing a little more polishing. If you did this under a really high speed, there's the Keytac sim falling off on the back. You see that black there and you would think, wow, that's decay. But it's not. And I thoroughly check it with a spoon excavator, and then I go back and I polish that a little bit, double check it, because you never want to leave decay behind in a crown. Now I could have removed all the silver filling material, but seeing that I placed it and I think that if taking all the silver out would cause more of a problem in terms of the tooth disintegrating and not having very much to hold on to. We're leaving this as a prepared buildup. It also saves the patient some money. I like this view from up on top so that you can see the gum tissue and the margins of the tooth. And I can see where it needs a little bit of polish on that distal buccal area. And then on the inside, that looks pretty good. I like to put in a anti-rotational component on the mesial of my preps. And so here's a little round burr that goes in, and we're putting just a little slot there. And sure enough, some of the amalgam came off. So I'm going to need to polish that a little bit more. But the idea is we'd like to have some retention. Naturally, I could bond whatever I'm doing in place. See a little bit of darkness there that's kind of like a brown up on top. I just go ahead and remove that. I don't think it was decay, but it looks suspicious. You'd rather have everything squared away and not have to worry about something in the future. Here I am polishing the distal aspect of the tooth. And I'm underneath the gum tissue. That's why I wouldn't recommend the bonding. That's very prevalent these days. And plus the fact that the bonded cements don't have fluoride. I don't think any of those would last the 28 years that we're talking about. While this turned out to be a really fine gold crown for this patient. So the next crown hopefully will last equally as long.